Elke, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for the nice introduction. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see the slides. Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, I'm working at the BFR in Germany, and this institution has been set up over 20 years ago, and it plays a very important role in improving consumer protection. And the BFR reports to the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture. And what is important to mention, it enjoys independence in the respect of its scientific assessment and research. And this is an overview of what we are doing in the field of new tobacco products and nicotine products. So there are many new products on the market, and we can analyze them, look what ingredients are in there. We have a smoking machine for heated tobacco products. For e-cigarettes, we can analyze the emissions and also do toxicological studies. And the aim is here to fill data gaps in order and to report this to the ministry, but we also, of course, publish our data. Another focus are flavorings in e-cigarettes, and here the effects of the respiratory tract. And today I will talk about the nicotine kinetics. This is also a very important field, as we can only learn about the new products if we know how they have been used and how much nicotine they do deliver to the consumer. Here you can see a first initial study, and many studies followed after this, and it's nicotine delivery, the efficacy of first and second generation e-cigarettes and its impact on relief on craving during the acute phase of use. And one important question we always raise is what is the potential of dependency of the new product? And we focus here especially on the nicotine delivery, the kinetics from the new products when asking about addiction. And especially important is the acute phase, because especially the first 5 minutes of the use are crucial for the development of a dependence. And I will shortly tell you something about the study design, and then I show you results from the heated tobacco products, nicotine pouches, and I also compare this to conventional cigarettes and pod or disposable cigarettes. We do these studies in cooperation with the LMU clinic in Munich. It's a special outpatient clinic for tobacco dependents. And they have a study center there, and they recruit the participants. And at BFR, we analyze, for example, the blood, and can see how much nicotine is in there. And here you can see a participant smoking a cigarette, and there's this little device with an adapter, and this device can record the puffing behavior, for example. And you can also see there these little plastic tubes. So blood is also taken at several time points, and this is then shipped from Munich to Berlin, and we can analyze it. The study has several appointments for the participant, and the first appointment, they will learn about the study design, for example, that they are not allowed to use a nicotine product 12 hours before, and some other things. And then at the second appointment, they can use the product, and sometimes there are also other follow-up appointments if they have to use different products. Yeah, as I said, I will start with the heated tobacco products. So we heard already a lot about those today. So they produce an aerosol using a different mechanism than tobacco cigarettes. Tobacco is burned at 900 degrees. And here there are special tobacco sticks inserted in these little battery-driven devices. And the tobacco is heated to 300 or 400 degrees. And this leads to lower emission of some harmful substances, but also of nicotine. And this is also reported by independent studies. So that's why these products are quite interesting. We use two different products from two different companies, the IQOS and the Glow. And in this study, so-called nicotine heat study, we used a fixed puffing regime. That means the puffs are drawn by the participant at a certain time point. Then also blood was sampled. We asked for craving. They had to fill in questionnaires about side effects. And here you can see the plasma nicotine curve over time, over 30 minutes. And the black one is the tobacco cigarette, and this was clearly superior in terms of nicotine delivery. But what does it mean? Does this suggest a lower addiction potential for the HTPs? And what is about compensatory puffing? This we didn't catch with only 30 minutes. What was interesting, all the products reduced the craving. So maybe it's not necessary that these products have more nicotine or that the nicotine delivery is more effective. But as we couldn't see with this study, so there was a follow-up. And the second study, so-called Nicotine-2, here we investigated the usage behavior and nicotine kinetics for an ab libitum use. That means the participants could use the product as they wish. And this was recorded over 90 minutes per video, and then also the puffing behavior was analyzed afterwards. Blood was taken at several time points, and also blood pressure, and the craving was asked for, and side effects. So there were 15 participants for each group. They were experienced participants, so they used a pod e-cigarette, an HTP, and a conventional cigarette. And here you can see the overlay of the mean values. So also here, clearly the cigarette was superior in terms of nicotine delivery. And we could not see a compensatory increase in puffing with the HTP as could have been expected. And the cravings were reduced by all the products. So we only detected this for 90 minutes. It's a rather short time. Maybe that's why we didn't catch the compensatory increase in product use. But the result also suggests that high nicotine delivery known from these tobacco-containing products may be not needed for the non-tobacco-containing product to satisfy craving in experienced users. Next product we studied are nicotine pouches, and here we were interested especially in the high doses of nicotine because there were no clinical studies published so far. This is the study design. Here we had a single center as a Munich 5-arm crossover study with 15 smokers. It's a very small study, but it's just our initial study. I hope we can follow up this. 4 different nicotine pouches were used as a control, one with 0 nicotine. Then we had 6, 20, and 30 milligram of nicotine with a mint aroma, and we used different brands. And then an own brand tobacco cigarette could be brought from the participants, and this was then also used. So the pouches were used for 20 minutes, but blood was taken up to 240 minutes, and side effects were measured, craving was measured, cardiovascular parameters were also measured. And in the literature, you also find nicotine pouches up to 50 milligram per bag, but we decided that 30 milligram is already a lot. And in the next slide. And in contrast to all the previous studies, our nicotine pouch study found higher nicotine levels compared to tobacco cigarettes. As you can see here, the yellow line, this is over the 240 minutes. the 30 milligram nicotine pouch, the plasma nicotine concentration is even higher than the one for the cigarette. And this result is really surprising because so far it's the first product which is better in nicotine delivery than the tobacco cigarette. And also, if you look at the acute phase, the increase is quite similar and even a little bit faster or higher for the 30 milligram nicotine pouch. And interestingly, craving was reduced by all the products, also with the nicotine-free pouch, but maybe that's somehow a placebo effect. Yeah, there were also parameters measured for arterial stiffness, and they were same for tobacco cigarette and 30 and 20 milligram nicotine pouch. And we saw that the pouch with the 30 milligram nicotine had overall the strongest side effects. And yeah, with these results, we concluded that the 30 milligram pouch may also induce addiction. The last study, just to compare the results to the studies before, we did with disposable e-cigarettes. We called the study Nicotine ELF. And here we were interested in the abuse liability and the risk of smoking initiation, as these products are really popular among young people. And yeah, the study design was quite similar to the studies shown before. We had two disposable cigarettes, strawberry kiwi and tobacco, and a pod e-cigarette. And you can see that the new disposables have almost the same nicotine release as the conventional cigarette. Here, it's over 30 minutes, and orange and blue are the two disposable cigarettes, and in gray is the conventional cigarettes. The participants we had here were occasional cigarette smokers in the age of 19 to 28, because we wanted to see what's the effect in the younger generation. And also in the acute phase, they are nearly similar than the conventional cigarette. What was interesting here as well, that we asked for the motivation to directly use the tested product again. Overall it was very low, but statistically higher for the disposable cigarettes, and even a little bit higher for the strawberry kiwi, so that we can assume that also the flavor has an influence here. And we concluded that the new disposable e-cigarettes hold a great risk of abuse liability and smoking initiation for the young, unestablished smokers. Yeah, coming to the conclusion, we all know that tobacco cigarettes are extremely harmful and dangerous. And despite the usefulness of new products for smoking cessation, the potential role regarding dependence and smoking initiation is alarming, especially as they are increasingly trimmed for high and fast nicotine delivery. Our aim is to protect the young generation, and therefore it's crucial to address them, to educate them, and also to observe trends, discuss regulation, include marketing, flavor, and even product bans, maybe. Yeah, we also heard already that future research is needed. So our studies are all pretty small. So I think also like larger studies are needed here from independent institutions. And on our next studies, we will also include biomarkers of exposure, which we also heard today already is very important to learn more about these products. So here, in the slide, I will thank my collaborators. I had my former co-workers at BFR, and Nadja Malok-Onesok and Dr. Thomas Schulz, mostly. And then at the clinic in Munich, it's mostly Andrea Rabenstein and Dr. Tobias Rüther, and of course, all the students who conducted the clinical studies. And with this, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elke, for an excellent overview over 3 different products, actually, and very interesting data. So everyone, in the audience, if you have questions, you don't have to be shy. You can ask them. You can raise your digital hand. But if you feel more comfortable, you can use the Q&A, or maybe you weren't able to find the Q&A button, then you can also use the chat function, of course, to ask your question. And well, Nargis, please go ahead. I think you are already unmuted. Yes.
Yes. Hi, Elke. Thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. I just have one quick question regarding the nicotine pouch testing. So I noticed that the application was only 20 minutes, whereas I believe in other studies, particularly by the industry, the application is usually 30 to 60 minutes. And I believe that's how they instruct people to use nicotine pouches, is up to 60 minutes. So I'm wondering what was the reason for a 20-minute mark? Thank you.
Yeah, as I remember, we also discussed this quite a long time, how we just decided for 20 minutes because we thought we will see most of the effects after 20 minutes. And yeah, I think in the next study, we could go for a longer time. But yeah, we all were not experienced users. So we just started with the 20 minutes. But also my colleagues here are in the seminar. Maybe someone had a better answer than me. But I remember that we discussed this as well in the beginning. What is a good time? But I also think like after 20 minutes, we just thought it cannot taste good anymore. The poor participants, they have this thing in their mouth and then they have to sit there and wait.
Thank you very much. That's a question from the chat by Charlotte Powles. Very interesting talk. How can you explain that the result? How can you explain the result that the pot e-cigarette does not give a similar nicotine level as the disposables? The delivery technique is similar, don't you think? So what's the reason for that?
Yeah, they are just more efficient. This is a different technology, and yeah, I guess you really have to look into it deeper. But they use all nicotine salt. Of course, in the pot e-cigarettes, they also use nicotine salt. Can be that in the pot e-cigarette, the volume you inhale is not as large as the one with the disposable e-cigarettes. Yeah, they are just more effective. This is all what we can conclude right now. But this is a really interesting question, and this is something we have to follow up on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. At least I know there are now population data from the UK showing that people who use disposable e-cigarettes use them at higher nicotine levels also. But that's, let's say, the real world, not the laboratory work.
Yeah, we chose the similar nicotine level,
Right.
but still
yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. Maybe I can ask a question about the pouches.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a question I had for Nargis, actually. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference in nicotine pouch and snus, maybe? I know that snus is illegal in Germany, right? It's, I think, only legal in Sweden, but
yeah, both products are illegal in Germany.
Oh, nicotine pouches are also illegal. Okay, but
Yeah.
we know that they are being used. And can you tell us a little bit about the difference in profile between these two products?
I mean, the snus contains tobacco.
Yeah, of course. But in
biggest
terms of, let's say, nicotine delivery, so what you were talking about and appeal for use and things like that.
Yeah, maybe Nargis knows more, but I assume the nicotine delivery profile might be similar. But of course, it's limited by the tobacco leaf, the nicotine content. I mean, you can add nicotine salt to them as well, but it's easier to have higher nicotine levels in the pouch.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. Yeah, so from what I saw in the literature, the nicotine delivery is similar in the way that it is also delayed, in comparison to tobacco, or sorry, cigarette, where it kind of hits you as you smoke. Whereas with both with smokeless, with snus and nicotine pouch, it is a little delayed, quite a lot delayed. I believe it's like, well, depending on the application, I believe it's like 20 or 30 minutes where it peaks. But it's the profile of delivery is pretty similar between the snus and nicotine pouch. Exactly, the snus contains tobacco leaves, whereas the nicotine pouch doesn't. And I believe there was a third question. I'm now blanking on it. What was the follow-up question, then, Daniel, that you had about it?
Appeal, I think.
Oh, right. Yes, yes, exactly. So when they looked at the appeal and the subjective ratings after the use, they compared nicotine pouch to snus and nicotine pouch to cigarettes. And of the three products, the consistent finding was that the nicotine pouch had the lowest appeal. So even though it can deliver the same or higher, as Elke showed, levels of nicotine delivery as opposed to snus or cigarettes for higher nicotine concentrations, the appeal was still not the same as for the other two products. So that was an interesting finding.
Right. Thanks for that. There's a question from Karin. Elke, do you know about the side effects of nicotine pouches? And what have you learned from your studies? And maybe from the literature if they differ in any way from snus?
Yeah, they differ. The snus is a little bit more also aggressive to the mucosa, but it also depends what's in the pouch. So I also heard from colleagues that there are also kind of really aggressive pouches, nicotine pouches on the market, where people use them and they really feel like an inflammation right away. So this is not that easy to answer this question because it depends on the pouch.
Okay. Thank you very much. In terms of time, I think we have to move on. Thanks very much, Elke, for this very interesting presentation.